Good morning to everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Um, Blessings on your life today. It's another day that the Lord has made. We're gonna rejoice and be glad in it. I gotta get myself together on today, and sometimes we have to do that because we still in this body. I'm writing. I was writing down some things here because I'm somewhat uh, undecided on which way I really want to go on this morning. Um, let me just make a footnote here before we get going. I don't know if I'm gonna teach today or if I'm gonna gripe today. It's one of those it's one of those things. It's one of those times. I'm having a moment right now. But I am. Let me just talk about me. Um, I have never seen slash experienced a time so challenging and difficult to minister the good news, the gospel of Jesus Christ in my life. I'm sure there's other preachers in other dispensations and perhaps even in this one that would agree with me, and there's some that probably would disagree with me, but I have not seen such a challenging time as the day that we're living in right now. It is extremely difficult to get Jesus to people. And one of the reasons why is because we have so many alternatives that are appealing to the flesh, number one, or perhaps number two. Number one, there is not enough examples of the demonstration of Jesus, the character of Jesus, the righteousness of Jesus, the love of Jesus uh, to the world. And so people have um, come to the conclusion that they're going to do it their way. And it makes it very difficult. When I was coming up, um, there was not such a smorgasbord of different directions to go. It was pretty binary. You either was left or right, you was on or you were off, and it wasn't gray. And now it's inconclusive, and it's challenging to the psyche, to the thought, and most of all to the spirit. I hate to use this analogy because I'm kind of in my own flesh today, and there's a part of us that we have to deal with, and that's a flesh part. But my carnality sometimes gravitates towards the Ricky Smiley show. It's been a long time since I watched it, but I watched the Ricky Smiley show, and one of the people on there, I'm gonna call her a character, but because she's always in character, but she makes his show, in my opinion. Other than that, I wouldn't watch it. But I love Miss Janie, and one of the phrases that Miss Janie coined, and she's famous for, is she says, "Ricky, you frustrating me." And I'm saying that because right now is not a good time for me, perhaps, to even teach, because, in the words of Miss Janie, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated. And sometimes we get frustrated for a myriad of reasons. It's either this here or that there, this here or that there. I'm kind of beside myself, and I'm going through a little something right now, and y'all gotta have some stamina with me and pray for me, because even the preachers sometimes get off, right? And sometimes we're aware that we get off, but um, it's just what happens, and it's called life. And in life, you understand that you a threefold being, and I'm spirit. That's the part that connected to God before the foundations of the world. God knew me before I was formed in my mother's womb. There's always been a relationship. That's that part that can't be contaminated. That is the God that's inside of me. I am soul. That is the part that when God formed me, he blew in me and I became. He blew. He didn't blow. He did not blow. He breathed. He breathed. There's a difference between blowing and breathing. He breathed in me and I became a living soul. That is my mental faculties. That is the cognizance of my decision making and my reasoning and all that. That is the part now that will be judged. That is the part that when I leave this body, that has memory and all that. That is that part. That is the soul part of me. But then there's a flesh part of me, and I was formed out of the dust of the earth. It is that part right now, that dust part, that I'm having some problems with. And I'm in a place where I gotta really suppress the flesh, because the flesh is calling and pulling on me to make certain moves that I don't want to make. And one of the moves that I'm challenged by, and I can do this because God has blessed me, and I'm really kind of doing a segue into my message today, if I get to my message. And one of those is the shirt that I'm wearing. The shirt it has all these keys on it. And on these all these keys is keys for 7 days of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way till Sunday. And every day represents a different car. These cars are not just normal cars. They're very exclusive cars that you just the ordinary person can't go out and get. So you got the Mercedes, the Bentleys, the Maseratis. Um, you got I think you got the what's the red, the Ferraris and all that kind of stuff. You got all that. Well, anyway, I'm feeling a little chippy, and uh, only because I'm older now. I'm at an age now to where I rationalize more wisely, and I'm not going to do it. But I'm saying this for a reason, and I wore this shirt specifically for a reason. The reason why I did it is because sometimes the flesh talks to us, and we have to suppress it and get ourselves back in order. But I am entertaining it. I'm gonna say that I am entertaining it, and the flesh now is a powerful component. It is a powerful entity, because sometimes we have to, uh, do things, do the right thing, and some of us we have temptations to do different things. My thing is I got a fetish for cars. I got a fetish for cars, and so it's a very expensive um, flesh issue that I've learned to manage. But as a young man, I didn't manage it so well. And so I used to buy a lot of cars and stuff like that. And so now I'm bored, right? I'm bored. And the way that I would manage my boredom is that I would be in school. I would be working on houses and all that kind of stuff. I'm not doing anything right now, and so I'm bored. And so this is the angle now that my flesh is challenging me, because I'm looking at cars and stuff like that. Not only am I looking at cars, I went out and This is part of my message, really, and I'm gonna get to this. But I went out and I bought some. I bought me a pair of these what they call red bottoms because I like shoes. I got a shoe fetish, and I'm going somewhere with this right here because a lot of us we got flesh problems. I'm trying to show you something right here. I'm going through something, and I need y'all to pray for me. I went out and I bought these. I bought these Christian Louboutin. I got these red bottoms. I went out and I got these red bottoms. Don't y'all get jealous. I got these red bottoms and I shouldn't have gotten them. I shouldn't have gotten them because I had shoes. I had enough shoes. I got shoes that I don't even wear. But I went and got it because my flesh was talking to me and I was trying to manage uh, this war in Romans chapter number 7. Paul said that I would do, I do not, and that I do, I would not do. And then it goes on to talk about who shall deliver me from this body of death. That there's a war that's going on the inside of me. There's the spirit that's trying to tell my soul, and my soul is trying to get to my flesh, and it's my flesh trying to tell my soul, and my soul is trying to tell the God inside of me how to walk this thing out. There's a war that's going on the inside of me. Who shall deliver me from this body of death? That's in the book of Romans somewhere, 7th chapter, I think. And so when I was younger, I would indulge in other things, even as a preacher, even as a man of God. But I'm older now. And so as I've gotten older, some of those things, wisdom and life has taught me that that's not good. And I've matured beyond some of those weaknesses that I had 20 years ago, and so on and so forth. And so, but we're still challenged. I don't know if I'm helping anybody today or not, but I want to talk today a little bit from something that's bothering me. It's bothering me, and I want y'all to know that I love the Lord, and I got good news. I do have good news on today, and I've got something that I believe that will help you. But it's challenging to get that good news to you because we have such a smorgasbord and we have so much charisma out there. And a lot of what's being presented today is being presented in a very charismatic way, but there's no substance behind it. There's no demonstrational power behind it, but it's something that would appeal to the flesh. And so you can hold the attention of a lot of people, but we're not gaining ground. We're treading on water. I want to bring your attention to the book of 2 Kings, chapter number 4, beginning at verse number 1. 2 Kings, chapter number 4, beginning at verse number 1. And it says this: Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets. Now I want you to hear what I'm saying, because all this, my intro and all this is all going to tie in together. It says, the woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets, the sons of the prophets. I want you to note the language now that is being mentioned. Unto Elisha, she cries. She's a certain woman, and she's married, or she was married to a prophet. And according to her understanding, her belief system, he was a man of God that served Elisha. Let me read that again, because maybe some of y'all didn't get it, and it's important. It's imperative that you get this in order for you to understand this word on this morning. Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha. which was the man of God, a real prophet, saying, thy servant, thy servant. Now that's really critical that we understand that and that we underscore the tag here, because she's personalizing it, and she's she's pinning her husband to the prophet. She says, thy servant, my husband, is dead. Now, this your servant, he's my husband. And so we all in this together. We all in this together. And thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord. Now you know it, you know his history. You know his service. You remember my husband and thy servant, and how he was faithful in the church, and he's been a faithful church member. He was a prophet, and he'd been in the church for 35 years, and he served diligently in that particular space. Not only did he serve the Lord, but he served you. He was thy servant. Now, y'all watch what I said. Knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord. Now, watch. And the creditor, he's dead now, but the creditor, oh, Lord have mercy. And the creditor is come to take unto him my two sons to be bondmen. Now, Houston, we have a problem. Can I teach? Can I preach, or should I quit? Houston, we have a problem. Number one, the woman has identified the situation. It's her husband. And she's married to a man that's been also a servant to the Lord. He's been faithful in the church, and he had a very unique relationship with Elisha, because she calls him thy servant. But he died. Now there's a problem here, Houston. We got a problem, because once the man died, she said that the creditors, I'm going somewhere on this morning. She said, the creditors now have come for my two sons to be bondmen. The creditor has come for my two sons to be bondmen. Now, that right there challenges my thought on this morning, because what I want to know is why was the creditors, why did they show up at the door? There's a problem now, and there's something that we need to take note of in the text, because we are still challenged by the creditors and the challenges of what happens when somebody is not doing the right thing, although they are living behind a shield. Our Lord Jesus, help me teach this thing on this morning. I want to talk to you on this morning. I want to talk to you on this morning from the subject behind the shield. I want to talk to you from the subject. I don't know how far we're going to get on this morning, but I want to talk to you from the subject behind the shield, because we are challenged today. And I wanted to raise this particular text on this morning because it's very befitting for where we are as it relates to my title, because a lot of us now are hiding behind the shield of something. There's a shield now. And as you look at my backdrop, in my backdrop, I got Superman and Clark Kent. They are one in the same person, but they share, what do they call it? They have what is that when what do they call that when you're hyper? It's not a hyper, it's a different your alter, your ego, your alter ego, or something like that, what they call it. But anyway, on one hand, in one and the same, there's a dichotomy that's going on here. One of the same, the people on one hand, this person is Superman, and he's got a shield, he's got a big S that's on his chest, and when he is in his alter ego, when he is in the form of Superman, you cannot step to him because he is behind a shield, and the shield now is extremely powerful. I was looking in the air and I said, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's Superman. It's Superman. Why? Because he's in a different form. But when there is no shield, or perhaps when there's no trouble, when there's no pull on him, the same person is back down the earth and he's grounded, and he wears a suit and he looks like this frail man that works as a news reporter, as a journalist, and he is none other than Clark Kent. Absent of the badge, which is where his power really lies, he's just an ordinary man. God help me preach or teach this thing on this morning, because the challenge now that many of us are dealing with is, how do we operate outside of the shield? Because the shield now has been a protector, and we've been hiding behind the shield of the church, and we've been shirking our responsibility, and we have not lived up to who we say that we are. We have been behind the shield, and all of a sudden, at some point in your life, the shield is going to be evasive. The shield is going to be elusive, and it's going to escape you. And once that happens, the real you is going to show up. And what are you going to do then? How are you going to operate? How are you going to present yourself? And how is the world, how is your family going to fare once they see who you really are? I know that you've been in the church for 35 years. I understand that. I know that you've been on the deacon board and the usher board, number one and number two. I know that you've sung in the choir. I know that you've been a minister. I know that you've been a pastor, an elder, an apostle, and a prophet. I get all that for all these years, but with all that, it's been nothing but a mirage in many cases, not every case, not carte blanche, but I'm going somewhere because it's extremely pronounced in the world that we live in today. Help me, Jesus, talk about this thing on today. And so many of us, we're being challenged now, especially the community in the church. We're being challenged by the shield. We're being challenged by the badge. It is something now that is standing in front of us that is preventing the people, the audience, the world, from seeing you for who you really are. It's a different person now if you remove the badge. Now, when we talk about shields here, we have different shields. We have shields of politics and government. Y'all know, if you look at political figures and the governments and all that, they have certain shields that go out in front of them. And it makes way, it makes room, it clears the pathway. Why? Because there is a shield that is in front of them. Has nothing to do with the people, has nothing to do with being moral or being ethical or being righteous. It has nothing to do, it's just a shield. Some of those people that's behind the shield are very demonic people. You have shields of the police force. We experienced a lot of that in 2019 and 2020, where they was just going around and they was gunning down innocent little black boys and brown boys that was in the street for no reason. Why? Because they had a shield of protection and or power that they could hide behind, because if you take away the uniform, if you take away the badge, you just can't run up and shoot somebody without paying the price. Without paying the price. So there's a shield now that we need to address on today. There's a shield of NFL and NBA. It's pronounced in those sports arenas, and I'm just naming those two because that's what I'm familiar with and what I watch. But I also noticed the character that is behind a lot of these notable stars and their talent. And once you're recognized with a certain talent and all this, then there's a badge, there's a shield that picks you up, and it's called the NBA or it's called the NFL. But when they go and they draft these people, what they don't understand is their integrity. What they don't understand is they was raised in single parent homes. What they don't understand is that they're monsters on the inside. They just have a great talent. And so when you pick them up, they still have to deal with the character with all that money. And with all that money, you got these silly women that's going after them, and these men treat them any type of way. And so sometimes you might see a video where they was coming out of an elevator, and here it is, this NFL running back star that beats this woman to death from the view, from the visual sight. Punched her in the mouth and punched her in the eye and kicked her and did this and the other. You got another person that they in the hallway, and he kicks this woman like a football and all this, because there's a shield now. There's a shield of money and there's a shield of power. You have medical and institutional shields. That means that now there's the thing where a doctor can do malpractice and not be accountable for their actions. I'm just giving you a few hypotheticals. Institutional, i.e., Ivy League schools that can set standards and do things that are unethical. Why? Because I'm Harvard. Why? Because I'm some of these other big notable schools that are out there. And because you have a name, because you have a shield, you have a badge, you're recognized, and that gives you power. That means that you can walk in places and step in directions that the ordinary schools or the ordinary people every day, folks, couldn't do. Why? Because there is a shield, there is a banner, there's a badge. You have name shields. You have name shields such as Rockefeller, Weinstein, or whatever his name is, the man that's with the kids situation. All these little kids that he's done these terrible things, sex trafficking and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't there. I'm just talking about perhaps he has done it. Look like a rat, it smell like a rat. Sometimes you gotta convince yourself and understand that it's probably a rat. Look like one, smell like one. It's probably one. You got the names like James, LeBron James. Although we have not heard anything, but the issue is that his name is a shield. That's the reason why little Bronny James is gonna make it into the NBA. And he really don't have NBA talent, but he's going to make it there because he's standing behind the badge. He's standing behind the shield of his father, James, watch this. Brady is another. It's a brand, it's a name, it's a shield. And if you step to it, you're going to get put down. You're going to come up against a wall, a brick wall. It's hard. Jesus said it's hard to kick against the pricks. You got Jordan. Just try it. Why? Because of the name, because of the money. You got names like Gates and Bezos and Musk Elon Musk. You got all them, they're shields. They're very powerful people. Why? Because there's money behind the brand. There's money behind the shield. And we stand being protected behind the shield, not really knowing the person. I'm trying to get somewhere, not knowing the person. So the person can be an animal, the person can be a monster, but the fact that they have a shield, the fact that they have money, they have influence, that means that they can do whatever they want to do. They become iconic. There is no wrong when you have a certain dollar amount behind your name. Now we have some proven shields here. And I'm almost finished. We have some proven shields, and I'm just gonna say this because I've been doing my little car thing, right? I like cars and stuff like that. So in my research, and my background is in engineering and all that stuff, I've owned several cars, different makes and models and stuff like that. But with that, there's some good news here, because even though there's speculation with some of the other things that I have aforementioned, in this right here, this has been proven. So we have now shields now that have been proven, like Mercedes, only the best or nothing, only the best of nothing. And down through the years, Mercedes has been a proven shield or a proven brand. Honda, down through the years, has been a proven shield for reliability and durability. It's proven its name. Honda, Toyota / Lexus, reliable and proven down through the years, not to break down on you, that you can get 200,000 to 300,000 miles out of it. It is a shield now that is honorable. I'm not saying that all the ones that I aforementioned were not honorable. There's some good that went along with that, but I'm trying to paint a picture. I'm trying to get you to see something that's in your head. But according to our text on today, we also have these shields that are prophetic. I'm a prophet unto the Lord, so that becomes a shield. I'm an apostle. I'm a pastor of a church, and a lot of us now, we're standing behind, and I'm getting into the meat of my message now, because I'm called of God, and I'm called to the fivefold ministry, and it's to address some of the issues, to build and to edify the church. Paul spent a lot of his time writing 2/3 of the New Testament, and he was dealing with Corinth. He was dealing with Ephesus, the church at Ephesus, and all that, the church at Ephesians. Okay, all he was dealing with their integrity. He was dealing with their deeds. He was dealing with their conduct. He was dealing with that. Okay, and so he's trying to modify and he's trying to make amendments to behavioral issues, although that you are behind the bloodstained banner, which is the shield of Jesus Christ. There is still some issues now that we have going on. And so this now is the issue with the woman here that is dealing with Elisha when her husband has died. Her husband has died and has left her in this this very bad way. Now, I need to read a little something more. I'm not going to be able to finish today, but I want to get something started, get a conversation started today. And Proverbs, the chapter 13 in the book of Proverbs, the book of wisdom, chapter number 13, beginning at verse number 22. And I've got a lot of stuff here today that I need to get to, and I'm not going to be able to get to all of it today, but I just want to get started. It says here in verse number 22, a good man leaveth an inheritance. Now I want to pause right there, because I've told y'all before, I don't sprint through the scriptures. I don't sprint through the scriptures. I need to pause. I need to get understanding and find out, God, what exactly is it that you're trying to say to me? It starts off and it says, a good man leaveth. A good man leaves. He leaves. That means he possesses something and he leaves it. He makes a deposit. He says a good man leaveth an inheritance. Now I need you to understand, without getting into the Hebrew definition and all that stuff and getting into the didactics of text, I want to give you a very simple definition of inheritance. An inheritance, by definition, simplified, means an example. I know a lot of y'all relating it to money and to riches and all that, but no, before you get to money and riches, you need to have an example. Not only that, you need to understand, because a lot of us psychologically, as we read, we think that it's related to death when it says that he leaveth behind, or he leaveth an inheritance. You think that it's related to death when you die. No, it is an example that you carry, that you demonstrate every day. A good man leaveth an inheritance. That means an example of how life is supposed to be walked therein. He leaves it to his children's children. I'm tying all this in. Y'all got to stay with me, because in the text, when we look there in 2 Kings chapter number 4, verse number 1 and 2, we see that this so-called prophet, that the woman had a misunderstanding, and she put the onus or the responsibility on the man of God, or on the church, to say, you are responsible for my husband in many ways and fashions. You are responsible. He's dead. I'm in a dilemma right now. He served you all these years. He served God. Now I want some help from y'all. So help me God. I need you to step in and to do something on behalf of my husband, because he was one of y'all. But what we got to understand is that maybe he wasn't God, maybe he wasn't Elisha, and maybe he was not a good man, but perhaps he hid behind the title or the shield prophet. He was a prophet, thy servant, is what the text say. But now we have to mine out the behavior, because now the church now is dealing with behavioral issues. And perhaps he was not the good man. Now watch this. He says an inheritance. This is what happens, and this was a challenge of the woman, because the woman now had to deal with the issue of her two sons being bondmen. What does that mean, sir? That means that the creditors now are coming to make it right, because your husband, number one, your prophet, number two, he didn't do something right. And that's the problem that we got, y'all, is that we live so spiritual that we don't deal with the practicalities of life. So we leave our families and we leave the space that we live in. We don't have examples to leave behind that people can follow. God help me teach this. And so when you don't do it, what you got to do is ante up. What you got to do is go to Peter so you can pay Paul, and all these different things, because now I'm in a dilemma. I'm his wife, but look at me. Help me. Because my husband belonged to you, but I didn't have nothing to do with your husband as a man. See, don't try to use the shield now to pin me up against the wall. The issue is that your husband, he lived behind the shield, but he was not a good man. And as a result of not being a good man, the Bible right here says that a good man leaveth an inheritance. Did it seem like this man, being a prophet, being one that lived behind the shield, was he a good example to his wife and to his sons? No, he wasn't, because the scripture here in Proverbs 3:22, it says that he leaves an inheritance or an example to his children's children. His children's children. That means that we ain't even got to give it no thought about my immediate biological children. That's a no-brainer. They all automatically get it. They all automatically got it because they was in the house with me. But I'm so strong and I'm so together and I'm such a good man that I leave such an inheritance that I ain't even got to mention my children. It's going to go to my children's children. Are y'all following where I'm at? I got to finish. His children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Now, I can hang out there for a minute, because one of the other issues is that we're dealing with the church is the church don't even have a storehouse. When it says the wealth is laid up, the issue that we having is that the church people, and it's people that make up the church, it's Christians that make up the church. Where is your wealth in the first place? We're not recognized as having places of storehouses to store up. When you talk about store up, you got to reach to the wicked. This is the reason why I preface this by talking about the Muskas of the world, the Bezos of the world, and all that. It's not really noted that you find Christian names that are powerful, but you find those names that are attached to sin, or attached to wickedness, or attached to something outside of the body of Christ, or outside of the shield. There it says that the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Now that means that we've got to position ourselves to get it from the sinner. Now I got to get to that a whole different time. Let me read this one last thing, and I'm gonna finish for the day. Because I gotta get to verse number 2, where Elisha starts to answer this woman in 2 Kings chapter 4, verse number 2. Verse number 1, it spells out the problem, but now you have to address the problem, and the problem now is addressed in verse number 2. Because Houston, we have a problem, we have a dilemma, and we got to deal with that. But let me just do this, and I'm gonna close in Proverbs. Proverbs 13. We just dealt with verse number 22, and verse number 23. It says this, and this is an issue that we're having. It says, much food. Verse number 23. Much food is in the tillage of the poor. Much food is in the tillage of the floor, and I gotta close. I'm already way over my time right now. What is it saying right there? It is saying that there is something that is for you, but it's in the tillage. That means that it's around you, it's all around you, but you gotta dig it out to till. The Bible says that there was the vegetation and stuff like that didn't come through because there was no man to till, because there was a harvest. There was a whole lot of things that was going to benefit him. But God says, I can't do it until I put a man there, because there's no man to till the ground. The tillage now, there's something that is all around you. Now watch this, because I ain't even explaining in its totality, because I'm short on time. And it says here, it says that much food is in the tillage of the poor, but that is destroyed for want of judgment. Now, what I'm saying in short right here is that the answers for a lot of us, it's around us, but we refuse to dig it out, to acknowledge it, to recognize it, to see it, to be ignorant of it. And that's the reason why we don't possess it. And when that happens, it says right here that they become destroyed for want or judgment. Because when you don't mine it out, when you don't till it out, what you're going to do is do something wrong. And when you do something wrong, then you set yourself up for judgment. And this now has become the issue that we are challenged with in the church, is because a lot of us, we're living behind the badge, we're living behind the shield, and we refuse to till what's around us from a practical standpoint. We want to be very spiritual. And we want to do spiritual things through osmosis, put the Bible on our chest and all that kind of stuff. And God is going to do it in the morning. To do it's 3 steps to a turnaround and 7 steps to get rich. And we focus on all that crazy stuff instead of verse number 23, where it talks about to tillage. It says food is there. Food. I ain't talking about the food you eat, but it's all encompassing. It means that provision is there for you, but it's in the tillage. And if you don't till, if you don't recognize, if you don't work, if you sleep and if you slumber, and if you be slothful, what happens is judgment awaits you at the door. I ain't done this message justice on today, but I got to pause it right there. But I want you to think about it. I understand, and that's why I got all this stuff that's going on right now with me, because one of the things that I'm proud of, and I want to say this with all humility, I'm proud of, is that you got a lot of men and women out there that they're behind the badge, and they're taking from the congregations. They stealing. You got to go out. You got the congregation that's buying you Mercedes. You got the congregation that's buying you the house that's on the hill. You got the congregation that's doing this and is doing that. And there's no examples. There's no examples. And so for me, what I like, and God showed me this 25 years ago. He says, Donnie, he says, when I'm ready to call you, he says, I don't want you to have to rely on people. I can do it on my own. That's the reason why I can go out and I can buy CLs, Christian Louboutins. I can buy it, even though it may not be the best thing to do. But I like the position that I can be in. I can buy it if I want to. If I want to go buy the car, I can buy it if I want to. I'm not trying to be braggadocious here. What I'm trying to say is that you got to get to the point to where there's a real badge. And I didn't even get to that part, because the real badge is the badge of, when is it going to be that we have the badge in front of us and inside of us of character and integrity and ethics. Real true character, integrity, and of ethics. When do we carry that badge? When do we carry the badge of ethics of what would Jesus really do? How would he conduct himself? When will we do that? Instead of hiding and ripping people off. Next week, I'm going to talk about what I believe, how I feel that the church, that some of these shield pretenders that's behind it, how they should be audited. And I ain't got no problem with a lot of the preachers out there that are young, because you can be young and have wisdom. But I do have a problem with being young. And when I say that, it's not necessarily, it's not relegated to an age, but more to maturity. I don't have a problem with that. But I do have a problem of you being young and you keep on working out, you keep on exercising and figuring it out with the congregation, and by the time you figure it out, you've been in ministry for 35 years and your church is not grown. Your church is not demonstrating. Your church is not walking morally or ethically or in the practical things of God. You still got them on a spiritual high. Houston, there's a problem. And so I feel like what we really need to do is audit. It should be an audit. Let me tell you, if I had my way to do it, I would assign somebody to go home with the preacher for 30 days. And I want you to audit his phone, the internet, the computer. I want you to talk to his children. I want you to ride in the car with him. I want you to do all that stuff for 30 days. Because I guarantee you, by the time these 30 days is up, you're going to find so much corruption with the person. And you're going to understand that the person has been behind the shield. And we got to do something with the person that continues to live behind the shield. I don't even want to get into this. There's pieces in my message where I talk about the regular church, because there's a church on every corner. These little poor churches, and these little poor churches, they got to go out and you get, 50 members or 25 members, and you got to beg, pass the offering plate, twice on every time you have church. And I'll just beg and beg, because that man won't go out and get a job. I don't have time to get into it today. Lord have mercy. Oh, I got something to talk about, because there's too many of us preachers that are storefront preachers, and every corner, every block got a church on it. When you sitting there relying on the congregation, and you won't take your tail out there and get a job. Paul worked. Jesus worked. It's a whole lot of them that did work. Jesus never told Peter not to stop doing his business. And all those that was fishermen that had business, he never told them to stop. But how is it that you ain't even walking in power? You ain't even walking in demonstration, but you go and you want to drive a Cadillac. You want the church to give you a salary of $75,000, $100,000, and for what? And for what? This is the problem that we're dealing with. I don't mean to be fussy or nothing like that, but I'm trying to get you to identify. And at the end of all this, we got to get away from this woman that her husband died and left her in such a mess. This is the reason why I talk about trust and wills and estate planning and all that stuff. Because I'm the type of teacher or preacher that I'm concerned about your overall wellness, your overall well-being, standing as a person in the earth. This is where we got to get to. My time is up. I am appreciative for you that will be here, that have been here with me, and they will watch this in green space. I really want to get my audience back up. I got hacked and I lost my audience. I had about 30 to 50 people across the platforms. When you add them all up, that was faithful to my ministry, my platform forms, and then I lost it. And so now I'm starting all over from scratch, because the devil got in it, because it's hard. That's why I'm frustrated, because it's hard out here trying to get the gospel out. And when it's a real gospel, this is the stuff that you can sink your teeth in. The other stuff, it's like Jello. There's no substance to it. And I don't mean that to knock everybody. I don't mean like that. I'm just saying, though, is that it is extremely challenging. It's a challenging time. I want y'all to be blessed. I want you to share this message with a neighbor, a friend, an enemy. I want you to give it a thumbs up. I want you to like it. I want you to do all that stuff. I am Dr. Eatman, and I am Dr. Donnie Eatman. I am the face of Face-to-Face Ministries. I want you to know that the Lord loves you so much that he gave his only begotten son, that if you would believe, you would not perish, but have everlasting life. I want you to go in God's speed, God's mercy, God's love, and most of all, go in God's grace. Until we meet again, shalom.